Welcome to the Kindness Project, the podcast designed to share stories of kindness and share how kindness can make positive change in our world, one small act at a time.
In this week's episode of the Kindness Project, we look back on the best two, including Munich Pride and the Kindness Project mug.
Welcome, my friends, to the Kindness Project. I am joined by a man who apparently bought my co-host a gift but didn't think about getting me one, and a girl who's just got a brand new Alexa. It's Russell and Charlotte. How are we?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, where's my gift?
I'm penniless now, so...
You're penniless.
You're not moving out in September.
You are absolutely pricey because you've spent all your money on Charlotte, yeah?
Totally. No, it was an Echo that I'd upgraded, and I thought Charlotte might like it for university.
Amazing. Thank you, Raz. That is, as befitting of the podcast, a very, very kind thing to do. Well done on that. What's been happening then, Russ? We haven't seen you for a while, have we? Because we've been on our sort of hollybobs.
You was away, and there was no Wi-Fi last time we tried this.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I did miss you.
Oh, cheers,
thanks,
mate.
Russ.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, we had a bit of Wi-Fi trouble, didn't we? So we had to scrap it.
I'm just sitting there wondering, now I can actually see what you're wearing now.
I'm wearing a cushion.
A cushion?
And nothing else.
Oh, lovely.
You can clearly see the collar of his shirt. Sort of.
Don't break the illusion. I'm just wearing a cushion.
You're taking the leaflet out of my book then?
Yeah, going naked to meetings. Yeah, that's it. Spot on. No, I'm wearing I'm wearing a blue shirt, mate. There you go. Would you like?
Very nice.
Quite a nice blue shirt, actually. But I'm just resting my chin because we're doing this. We're recording live from our sofa. Yeah. So I'm resting my chin on a little cushion.
We're better to do a casual podcast than on your sofa.
Well, you know what? I think all podcasts should be from the sofa, don't you?
That's right.
Yeah, it's a bit of like an informal style to the...
Fun fact, the first time we recorded the podcast, it was just 2 chairs and a mic.
2 chairs and a mic. We didn't even have a laptop.
We had a laptop.
Yeah, I mean, we've recorded in all sorts of places. We've recorded abroad. Yeah. We've recorded here. We've recorded from the sofa, from the table. I've never done it naked.
No way.
Really?
How about
that time when you had the camera off?
No.
Oh, right, okay. Fair enough.
Usually that's what I do in our interviews. Switch the camera off and turn my top off.
Interviewing topless with Russ.
Interviewing topless it's almost as good as cooking topless with Russ. Russ interviews. Watch out for Stephen Bartlett. Interviewing topless with Russ is going to be the new top podcast. Let's talk about how amazing Munich Pride was, right? So we did go to Munich Pride. By accident. We didn't know what was going on. And then we saw Charlotte saw one particular boy in stripy, multicoloured socks, Googled Munich Pride, and then suddenly we're in the middle of Munich Pride. But let me tell you a little story that highlights the generosity of the crowd in Munich Pride, right? So we're in the middle of Munich Pride. Charlotte's chatting to a fella, at Munich Pride. And he just, lovely fella, turns around and went, here, I have a rainbow flag. I've got 10 in my bag, and my intention is to give them all away.
You didn't build it up all that well, you know.
What?
I'm like on the edge of my seat. This geezer's really going to do something extraordinary. He gave away a few flags.
No, they were massive. The flags were big.
They were about my body height.
They were full body flags.
Yeah.
And he'd intentionally bought more so he could do a kind act and give it away.
I'm more interested to hear how you ended up in a police car.
Well, you could have a go at the police car. Now, I walk up to the thing, and all sorts of different people, Russ, are having a go at the police car. So you've got young people, you've got older people, and what you basically get to do is wear a police hat and wave a stop police sign out the window of a very cool
great.
little mini German police car, right?
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah, so did I, and I'm sure you'd have a go. Charlotte, on the other hand, not keen.
Why didn't you give it a go, Charlotte?
Didn't want to.
Didn't want to.
Oh, no.
Too cool for school.
Simple people.
Too cool for school. Let's talk about Mug of the Week.
Right, yes, okay. Concepts. Instagram eats up niche stuff, you know. Mugs, a new mug every
I
week.
feel like I'm on a social media training course, Russ. Do you?
Yeah.
Apparently, Instagram eats up niche stuff. Right?
Anyway,
That's where
new
we're starting.
mug every week, but they've all got business logos on them. Because I've got about 6 or 7 business branded logos.
So we've got the 6 or 7. We're definitely doing Mug of the Week, not Mug of the Month.
Depends on how much my mug income becomes. Like if we could get some more mugs in, I could do mug of the week. But if my flow of mugs isn't enough,
We need a mug flow, don't
I
we?
need a mug flow
So how
need a
many
mug flow.
do you need?
for a month,
That's enough. We can do that.
right?
We can do that. I mean, we couldn't repeat a mug, couldn't we?
Yeah, we could repeat a mug. I would appreciate.
Let's just clarify. Is that royal we?
What do you mean by the royal? Oh,
Just
right,
me and
right.
you. We
right.
could repeat a mug.
I'm not getting involved.
Last time I got a phone call to say, can you get involved? We're 6 years down the line, and it's cost me a mug.
On that note, let's share a little bit of kindness by doing the next part of the show, which is
Kindness news.
and this is teen finds woman's purse and is rewarded with $17,000 after he delivers it to her door. A 17-year-old teen in San Diego returned a purse left in a grocery store parking lot, and although he expected nothing in return, hundreds of strangers have offered him a big reward.
Adrian Rodriguez found the green handbag in the Ralph's parking lot in Chula Vista, California 2 weeks ago. Instead of bringing it inside the store, he decided to deliver it himself to the woman's front door. Although the owner, Elena Martin, wasn't there, the purse was left with the roommate, and the home surveillance video was used to track down the high school graduate to show him some love. I looked into the Ring camera and I was like, oh my god, he's such a young kid, recalls Melina Marquez. We need to find him and just give him a little piece of gratitude. She and Martin posted the striking image on social media and found the young man who returned the bag, which contained $20 and a wallet full of credit cards. My mum always told me since I was little to always do the right thing when nobody's around, Adrian told NBC News. I didn't expect nothing back, honestly. If someone found my stuff, I'd want them to bring it back to me, said the humble youth. But the good news didn't stop there. Marquez organised a GoFundMe campaign as a way for friends and new admirers to reward Adrian's honesty. 764 donors sent money that totaled over $17,000. Every parent right now hopes that their children grow up to be just like this young gentleman.
Yeah, love that.
Scroll past before I finish.
No, that was the end of the article.
There was one more line I wanted to
Yeah,
read.
it said watch this video, but we're not going to play that on the show, are
Oh,
we?
fair do.
So that was amazing. And you know what? I know that technology can get a rightfully sometimes harsh time because of the impact it has on the world. But there are elements where you turn around and go, if used positively, particularly to promote positive behaviour, the technology is amazing. Like GoFundMe allows you to support any cause in the world where what you think deserves it. And certainly Adrian and the great work he's done, for me, definitely deserves it. So well done, Adrian. That $17,000 that people have donated certainly is pretty. One of the most interesting things for me in my day job, in the job as a financial planner, is often people come and see me at a point of transition. So they're thinking, and my typical client, sort of early 50s to early 60s, looking at a position where they're trying to work out whether financially they've reached a level of wealth to do something else. And a lot of the conversations aren't about money. They're about, what do I do with my life, Chris? I'm now at a point where I've achieved a level of financial independence. I'll give you an example. Working with a guy at the moment, and I won't break any confidentialities clearly, but working with a guy at the moment who said, I've been doing the same thing quite successfully for 30 years. What am I if I'm not my job? And part of the conversations that we have are around saying, what is your purpose in life? What is it you really want to, like, where do you add value to the world over and above the money? If we can tell you that the money's going to be all right, and that conversation, Jeff, fascinates me because it's so interesting in terms of helping people, and guide. And the life coach, I'd imagine is doing exactly that, just more intensely, right?
Well, you're in a coach even asking those sessions. I guess it's how you put a structure around that conversation, so that someone walks out the door feeling like they are, a step closer towards working it out and feeling empowered as a result. But yeah, what a fascinating stage of life to be in, where you start to actually align yourself with what you actually want to achieve with the time you have after what you thought was important was the career, and now realizing, well, that's just given you it's given you the tools, the experience, and maybe the platform to then be able to make decisions as to what you do. I love where I've landed with just like, I was really clear this week this year, that it was all about what I can give. And it's the reason why I do plenty of podcasts. It's the reason why I'm doing the workshops for free and the walk and talk stuff at a different game every Saturday, wherever I am. And it's because if I can do my little bit, and if you can do your little bit with this podcast, if someone else can do their little bit with something else, then
the world's going to be a better place as a result, right?
We have to see ourselves as the balance to all the bad stuff, as opposed to. I'd never be one to sit around and just be like, "Well, this is bad, isn't it?" Well, okay, what can we do that I guess is contradicting to that, and what's the opposite?
Yeah, what can we do to just engender some sort of positive change? And if we can do that, that's great. And I suppose the big factor. I know you mentioned you trained as a life coach. What was your biggest lessons when you went through that process for you?
Thinking specifically as a coach, was my introduction to imagery, which is not something that I was trained in, but just something as a coach I naturally gravitated towards, and that is to help people to see their situation from a different point of view by inviting them to close their eyes and imagine the situation visually. And by playing around with that and by realizing how powerful it is, a lot of people get very used to avoiding the same conversation they seem to be having a lot with a lot of people, where it's just purely verbal. But actually, when you invite someone to see it and to create an image, obviously it's not me giving them the image, that's them creating it for themselves and telling me what they see and what that metaphor is for their situation. That all of a sudden their resistance to kind of exploring it is less as a result. And as I say, it's just like it never ceases to amaze me how powerful imagery is in helping people unpick the things that they've been stuck in the past. So that was
it's that visualization of a different situation, the situation they're in, just viewed from a different perspective. How would you use that imagery?
Yeah, it's quite flexible. It's really creative in that actually what I'm trying to do, I guess, is help them to construct the visual image. And then when they've constructed it, we start to question it, why things appear in certain ways. But the detail you can go into is absolutely immense, and it all represents very cleverly something that your subconscious has just sort of offered up. So yeah, I remember learning about how we're all an iceberg, in that what our conscious cognitive thought process is what you see above the surface, which is, it seems like quite a big, element of the iceberg, but actually
It's not, is it? Yeah.
When you see beneath the surface, it's only 5% of it. And
the problem is, certainly for me, is the more you learn about that personal development stuff, the more you realise you don't know.
We don't know. We know very little. We are the comprehension of who we are, why we are, the purpose of why we're. It's such a huge, unexplored expanse.
And there was a few podcast interviews that I really piqued my interest. Particularly, and I want to cover off a couple of things on this. Number one, gratitude. So, how important do you think gratitude and being grateful is in terms of your mental health?
I just know when I read the law of, I read The Secret about the law of attraction when I was quite young, and I remember thinking, this is how I think. This, someone who's very positive, this will really speak to you, because it infers that basically your life is in your hands, and that if you take full responsibility and accountability for your thought process, then actually that will deliver the life and the experiences, and I guess in some ways the luck that you're looking for.
I personally, and again, I completely appreciate that people might disagree with me. I've not read The Secret, but I just think the reality is a bit more nuanced and deeper than that, purely and simply because the law of attraction just seemed like too much of a simplistic solution for me. What did you think?
No, I agree, but it's a great place to start. Yeah. And what do you lose? So it's not a religion, and I don't think that you're never asking anybody to because it doesn't explain why people get serious illnesses, right? It doesn't explain. So you're right, there are obviously huge caveats, but my response will always just be, what's the harm in taking accountability, which is massive. 100%. For your thoughts. If we imagine why anxiety is so rife at the moment, and that is about how people don't quite have the boundaries around their thought process, so it gets carried away, it gets heightened and exaggerated, and next thing you know, something is thought into being a far bigger issue than maybe it was initially. So that's what happens. If your thinking is let's say not constructive, then you're looking at anxiety. If your thought process is one where you understand that if you think positively about things, then you can manifest these things into your existence, then all it means, that even if it doesn't work, and actually that's not how the universe does work, you can't ask, believe and receive, then it just means that you've spent a lot less of your day worrying about things unnecessarily. It doesn't mean that you're careless. It doesn't mean that you're not giving mind to things that you need to take care of. It just means that you're thinking about those things in a context that is constructive and
that's likely to result in you taking positive action as well, isn't it? That's the reality of it. So that mindset stuff, I think I completely agree with. The bit that I think we might, and we can disagree, Jeff, there's no problem with that.
Definitely.
The bit that I think is that positive act, certainly look in the mirror, certainly it starts with you in terms of the decisions you make. The bit that I think, and again, I might have misinterpreted the book. The bit that I'd add on to that is you've got to take the positive action. This stuff just doesn't come to you. You've got to take the action to drive stuff forward. So maybe I need to read it. Maybe I've misunderstood it.
No, listen, not at all. But of course, you're right that positive actions lead to
Talk to me about that experience of just, building those adventures with your son, because that sounds amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I've been climbing mountains. I grew up, as I said, in the Northwest, and we would go each weekend to Snowdonia and we'd go climbing. And so I've grown up climbing mountains and then doing other stuff. And my son has watched me do this. And then as he grew up, he said, can I come with you?
Can I come? Yeah.
So the first expedition with him was when he was 12. And we went trekking around the Brecon Beacons. I just took him somewhere where he could get a flavour. Took him around the Brecon Beacons, up and down some big hills. His rucksack was bigger than he was. I've got this wonderful photograph, literally his big pack on his back, and he loved it. And then when he was about 15, I walked to the North Pole, and he was too young. I mean, it would have been too tough.
Yeah. And
then once you walk to the North Pole, well, you want to walk to the South Pole. So when he was about 17, I gently suggested over dinner one day to my family, I'd like to walk to the South Pole. My wife's kind of used to it. She's known me a long time. And Matt perked up and he said, well, you're not going without me this time.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So we went, so we walked to the South Pole together, which was a pretty tough assignment. I mean, it's a very challenging place to get to. People don't appreciate that the South Pole is at 10,000 feet altitude. And it's at equivalent of 14,000 feet because the Earth's atmosphere is thinner down there and blah, blah, blah. But our average day was minus 45 centigrade. So it's a very challenging environment.
How long did the expedition take?
We were on the ice for about 6 weeks.
Right.
So, and he plugged away. And honestly, after the third day, I thought he wasn't going to make it. But then I realized he wasn't eating properly.
Yeah. Is there a point where you get acclimatized?
Yes, there is. Yeah, there is. Yeah. There's a point where you stop noticing the cold.
Yeah.
And you're still going to be very cautious because when you stop noticing it, that's when you can get frost nip and particularly any exposed areas. Your face. I have 2 scars on my face from a bit of frost nip. So you do have to be wary at all times, but you do stop noticing the extreme cold. I mean, when you get off the airplane on Antarctica, it is like somebody hitting you in the face with a baseball bat. I mean, it is that cold.
Yeah.
But you do acclimatize, yeah. So we've gone on since then. So we've gone and climbed some of the world's biggest mountains together, and we went back to the North Pole so he could do both poles.
So was the conversation when you decided to go on your own expedition the same? Was it you're not leaving without your dad?
No, it was quite the opposite actually.
Oh, was it? Right, interesting.
Yeah, because I said to him, hey, I'd like to row the Atlantic. Do you want to come? And he said, no. I said, why? He said, we'll die. He said, it'll be pain, and more pain, and then we'll die. I said, well, try and be a bit more positive than that. And he said, no. He said, we don't know anything about it. It's too dangerous. I'm not coming. So
I'm assuming the guys that the guys who were in the boat had some sort of knowledge of the environment they're going in or navigation, or was it 5 complete amateurs?
Well, none of them had ever rowed,
right? But
they were dinghy sailors, and a couple of them worked on super yachts as crew members, so they had some understanding of the sea.
Yeah.
So when I said to Matt, okay, well, that's a shame because I've got a crew. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, I've got a crew. Oh, he said, you're serious? I said, yeah, I'm absolutely. He said, all right, I'm in then.
Yeah.
I'm in then. So that was it. So he was in.
So if it was just you, Kev, he wouldn't have done it. But
well, I said to him that I enjoyed it so much and I'm going to do it again. And he said, well, you're mad. I said, well, I'll do it on my own. He said, no, you'll die. I said, well, what if I did the Pacific? Would you come with me? He said, yeah, I'll come with you on that. So we're going to do the Pacific in 2024. But the story of the book is, what do you learn? How do you go out and race against Atlantic oarsmen who, some of them have been Olympians. I mean, we're racing people who are serious oarsmen.
And I suppose one of the things that came across in terms of when I've been reading some elements on the book, so I haven't read the book, but I've been doing some research for this interview, was that there was so many lessons that you learned through the process of going on the expedition. Do you want to share a couple of those? What were the ones that stand out the most? Now, I know that in the blurb it says there's 80, so we don't need to go through all 80, but there's probably a couple that you want to share.
Well, I think the biggest one is the recognition that preparation is everything.
Yeah.
And it's the same in business. You know, you've got to do your thinking before you lurch into some business situation you're unfamiliar with.
Yeah.
The most critical one, I believe, is about the culture. And the words we used on the boat were be kind.
Yeah.
And I know this is a kindness podcast, but it was be kind, because we're all going to have a very bad day.
Yeah.
Now, to give you an idea, we're rowing 24/7, and there's no support vessel. People keep saying to me, "Would you get off at night into a?" No, we're just in a rowing.
Yeah.
That's it. There is nothing but us. There is no rescue. There is nothing. So we're all going to have a bad day. When you're rowing, 2 hours on, 2 hours off, all day, 7 days a week, and we rowed for 19 days without taking a break. We gave ourselves a 30-minute break to celebrate New Year.
Right, and that was it.
That was it.
It was work all the way through then.
Work all the way through.
Yeah.
But that's why the culture is so important, because when you're lacking in sleep, as we were, you get 2 hours off, you've got to eat, wash, do the jobs on the boat, use the toilet, all of that stuff, and then you get to sleep. So you might get an hour's sleep, and then you're back on rowing for another 2 hours.
Yeah.
And you start to get a bit batty. You start hallucinating. About day 12, 13, 14, you are seeing things that are not there. I at one point, I knew exactly where we were because I could see Tesco. I was absolutely convinced of this particular shadow out on the ocean was Tesco.
Was it Tesco?
Yeah, completely bonkers.
Yeah.
But the culture that we created meant that we supported each other through.
And that's what I'm interested in. So that element of culture, that element of be kind, it has that manifested in the boat when you're out and you've had that sort of hour's sleep. How does that culture manifest itself? Is it just making sure that you're considerate of each other and the fact that we're all going through a tough time, so let's help each other through it?
Yes, it's exactly that.
Yeah.
Somebody might be having a really tough shift and finding it hard work to row for that particular 2 hours. You don't moan at them. What you do is say, okay,
support.
Ease off a little. I'll carry it for the next hour. You ease off. And we were 5 guys who were all determined to give absolutely 110%. But there comes a time when some people are saying, you know what, I'm just struggling a bit right now. Okay, then we'll carry it. You just give yourself a breather for a moment. We'll carry it.
Is that a culture you applied to business as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The thing about leadership is it's about inclusivity. Yeah. It's not about exclusivity. It's about inclusivity. And the role of being a leader, to my mind, is about creating a culture where people feel part of it.
Yeah.
Where people feel that they are engaged, they're involved, and that's what leads to the inspiration.
Yeah.
And so my approach to leadership is about being very inclusive. It is about talking to everybody. It is not about exclusivity. In some of the businesses I've run, one of the first things I've done is the old-fashioned close down the executive dining room.
Yeah.
At
BMW, it creates a barrier, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. At BMW, I turn the executive dining room into a library and a relaxation area for the whole team.
Amazing.
So people could come in there, read books, read journals, have a chat, take a break.
I suppose the interesting thing with that is, do you think business culture in particular, has changed? Because I'd argue it's changed for the better over the last sort of 3 decades. Do you reckon we've moved from a situation where it was a less kind environment, a bit of a dog-eat-dog environment, potentially in the 70s and the 80s. And we've sort of evolved to a situation where we realise that only works for a certain amount of people. What do you think?
Yeah, I do think it has evolved because thankfully more leaders have learned that the way to engage their teams and build a great business is about catching people in, not catching people out.
Yeah.
If somebody does something that's helpful and positive, then catch them in, make a fuss, engage with them and thank them. When it goes wrong, because things go wrong every day in business,
100%.
Don't make an example of it. That's when you have the quiet conversation. That's when you want to speak about what have we learned from that. And again, this comes back to the boat. When it went wrong, okay, guys, what did we learn from that? What can we do differently next time?
Sorry, go on.
And I was just going to say, we got...
Even though we're sort of shelving the end of the podcast, which are the answers, we have got a couple of answers from last week, Charlotte. So would you like to do the catchphrase?
Here's the end of another podcast, but the end is never truly the end because the end is always the beginning of something entirely new. And last week's question of the podcast was about zoo animals, if I remember correctly. What's your favourite zoo animal? And we had, 3 responses? 2. Stacey Keane said, hard one as I love all animals. For me, it will be seals. Just love watching how graceful they are. And then Russell and Stacey had a bit of a chat in the comments of that one. Oh, you can watch them on the beach. That's cool. And Heidi Ball said elephants.
Now, when Rosie's talking about the seals on the beach in Norfolk, I've been to see those seals, and they are amazing. One story about that, I saw a seal give birth on that beach, which was both a incredibly traumatic but an incredibly life-affirming experience. And on that note, that's the story.
No. There's more to that story because I remember Soph said something, and it just became an in-joke that just stayed for a while. About when the seal was born, she said it was fresh.
Fresh as a daisy. I think all babies are fresh when they come out. Disgustingly fresh, but very fresh. And on that note, they should market more products like that. Fruit, disgustingly fresh. And another visual question to end the podcast, listeners, if you'd like to email in, what would you call disgustingly fresh? And on that note,